January 2009. Before Barack Obama even stepped into the Oval Office, he announced a major promise. He would end the revolving door between government and the industries that lobby it. Quote, "We need to close the revolving door that lets lobbyists move freely in and out of government," he said. To prove he meant it, Obama created a strict rule. Anyone joining his administration had to wait 2 years before lobbying the government again. But even before Inauguration Day, Obama granted his first exception. His team hired William J. Lynn III, a longtime lobbyist and senior vice president at Raytheon, earning over $1 million a year. Lynn wasn't just another lobbyist. He had previously served in the Clinton Pentagon, overseeing defense budgets and military acquisitions, the exact experience Obama said was being abused for private gain. Yet Lynn returned to government at Obama's request, and only 2 years later, in 2012, he was back in the private sector again, this time as the CEO of defense contractor DRS Technologies. The job has been extremely lucrative. In just the last 3 years, Lynn has earned nearly $30 million. Lynn may look like an exception. In reality, he represents the norm. A 2021 study revealed that more than 1,700 senior government officials moved into defense industry jobs within 5 years. Another report found that 26 of the 32 retiring 4-star generals and admirals took positions in the arms industry as advisors, consultants, lobbyists, or board members. Harry Truman once warned that the military-industrial complex would eventually dominate not just America's economy, but its Congress, and ultimately destroy the country from within. Welcome to the modern U.S. military-industrial complex, a machine of profits, wars, and endless revolving doors. How it all began. Before World War II, the United States did not rely on permanent weapons contractors. When war came, the government would partner with companies temporarily and build short-term supply chains. But the global scale of World War II changed everything. President Franklin Roosevelt created the War Production Board to coordinate military manufacturing. This built deep ties between the government and private industry. After World War II, instead of dismantling this system, the U.S. kept expanding it. The Cold War with the Soviet Union turned defense into a full-time enterprise. Companies like Boeing, Lockheed, and General Dynamics shifted heavily toward military production. Before World War II, no major American company earned even half its revenue from defense. Today, multiple giants, Lockheed Martin, General Dynamics, Northrop Grumman, HII, depend on war for the majority of their income. Dwight Eisenhower saw the danger clearly. In his farewell address, he warned the country to guard against the growing political and economic power of the military-industrial complex. That warning was ignored. After the Soviet Union collapsed. When the USSR fell, U.S. defense spending dropped from 6% of GDP in the 1980s to just 3% by the late 1990s. For the first time in decades, the Pentagon didn't need endless weapons. But the defense industry wasn't built to shrink. Pentagon leaders held a famous meeting in 1993, known as the Last Supper, urging defense companies to merge so the industry could survive lower budgets. Within a few years, Northrop merged with Grumman, Lockheed merged with Martin Marietta, Boeing absorbed McDonnell Douglas. By 2000, 5 mega-contractors controlled over 50% of all Pentagon spending. The U.S. had created defense oligopolies. Meanwhile, traditional commercial suppliers were pushed out. By the 2010s, only about 10% of defense procurement went to normal commercial firms. The rest went to specialized military companies. And these firms quickly realized something. Defense was now a predictable, stable, extremely profitable business model.
The business model of perpetual war. Since 2000, defense stocks have consistently outperformed the overall market. Why? Because the Pentagon is the perfect customer. It spends enormous sums, nearly $1 trillion in 2024. Spending rises almost every year. Contracts last for many years. Upgrades and maintenance are automatically awarded to the original contractor. And many contracts are cost-plus, meaning the contractor earns more profit by spending more money. This last point leads to infamous cost overruns. The F-35 started as a $200 billion project. Its lifetime cost is now $1.7 trillion. The presidential helicopter program ballooned from $6 billion to $13 billion before being canceled, with taxpayers absorbing the cost. Every time expenses go up, the contractor makes more money. There is no incentive to be efficient. There is every incentive to overspend. Unlike consumer industries, where competition drives down prices, defense rewards inefficiency. War is business, and business is booming. How the industry maintains power. Defense firms don't just lobby. They build an ecosystem of influence. 1. Pork barrel spending. The F-35 program alone touches 46 U.S. states, employing around 125,000 people. Not because that's efficient, it's the opposite, but because it ensures nearly every senator and representative has jobs in their district tied to the program. No politician wants to cut funding and risk losing jobs at home. This explains why the annual defense budget, the NDAA, passes with overwhelming bipartisan support, around 80% yes votes, even during one of the most polarized eras in American politics. Political donations. Defense companies heavily fund members of Congress who support higher military spending. Lawmakers who voted to increase the defense budget received 4 times more campaign money than those who didn't. This investment pays off massively, a return on influence worth hundreds of thousands of %. The revolving door. In 2024, 63% of defense lobbyists were former government officials, and about 80% of retiring 4-star generals went directly into defense sector jobs, many earning huge salaries. Examples: David Petraeus, now at private equity firm KKR, advising multiple defense tech companies. Lloyd Austin, former general who joined Raytheon's board before returning to government as Secretary of Defense. Private equity, venture capital, consulting, all now deeply tied to military spending, with dozens of former officials moving into the investment side of defense. The incentives are clear. Be friendly to the defense industry while in office and earn a fortune after leaving it. The consequences. The revolving door isn't a door anymore. It's a conveyor belt. Taxpayer money enters the Pentagon, flows into contractors, and ends up as salaries and stock bonuses for the same elites who once made policy. Defense companies don't just influence national security policy. They are national security policy. And when profit and patriotism merge, the result is a system where war is incentivized, overspending is rewarded, criticism is punished, and the public holds all the risk. Eisenhower understood this better than anyone. His warning remains as relevant today as the day he said it. We must never let the weight of the military-industrial complex endanger our liberties or democratic processes. An empire that cannot separate national defense from private greed will eventually lose both.